Okay, in this video we're going to talk about musical terms. So it'll be a nice, quick, short video. There's just a small selection of musical terms that we need to know, mainly to do with what we call dynamics. Now, dynamics in music is basically volume, how loud or how soft we play. So we're going to talk about these ones first. Everything from pianissimo, whoops, I'm missing a P there. That should be double P. Pianissimo to fortissimo. So what does all that mean? So it's all got to do with how loud we play. So here's a question. Do you know what forte means, or do you know what piano means? So let's start with those two because they're probably the most common. So piano simply means that we play soft or softly. Okay? So if piano means soft, then obviously forte is going to mean what? Loud. Okay? So then everything else kind of fits in the middle. So we have, let's start at the bottom. Pianissimo, which is double P. So on the music we don't write the full names, we just write these little ones here. So you'll see on a piece of music it might start at PP, which is pianissimo, which is very soft. Okay? So pianissimo, double P means very soft. Single P is piano, which just means play softly. MP, mezzo, which means moderately, so moderately soft, MP. MF is moderately loud. I'm going to come back to that one because that's an important one. We'll keep going though. Forte, which means loud, and fortissimo, which means very loud. You can actually get 3 Ps and 4 Fs, and I think you can, I may have even seen music with more than that. So it does go to quite extremes. This one here is important because generally MF, moderately loud, is considered the volume that you would normally play at. So if the chart or the music says MF, then you would play at the volume that you're probably used to. Just moderately loud, that's normal. And then from there you would move to other parts. Most people just do this kind of thing naturally. I mean, we're not going to be playing from music too many times, but we do need to know these terms. So that's what those mean, everything from very soft to very loud. Over here we have a crescendo and a decrescendo. Once again, you're not going to see the words on the music, but you'll definitely see these symbols. And they kind of mean what they look like, once again to do with dynamics. So crescendo means gradually getting louder, and obviously decrescendo means gradually getting softer. Okay, so that's musical terms. One other thing I'd like to cover in this video, which I didn't talk about when we talked about note values, is what a dot does to a note. And there's 2 things a dot does to a note, so it's kind of related to this. But we're just going to talk a little bit about this. In terms of a dot, you can get 2 types of dots. They're just dots, but it depends. The dot does different things depending on where it is. So we're going to talk a little bit about this one where the dot is directly above the note, or it can be directly below the note. And then we're going to talk about this one where the dot is next to the note. But this one first, some of you may have seen this. Do you know what this is? It's called staccato, which means short and detached. Basically, it's a short note. So if you have a note with a little dot above it, it goes but, like that. If the dot was not there and we had a note without the dot, the note would go ba. You would hold it for its full length, ba. But if it has a dot, it's called staccato. I'll try that again. Staccato, and it's but, short and detached. The opposite of staccato is legato. So that's where we have a little line. Okay? So staccato, short. Legato just means we play that note for its full value. It's not worth any extra. We just make sure that note goes complete the whole note. Okay? So that's staccato and legato in terms of dots and a line for legato. But we're going to talk a little bit about what this dot does here next to the note, not directly above it. And I'm going to actually change that type of note. I'm going to start with this note. Now, here's a question for you. How many beats is that note worth and what is it called? Pause the video if you want to work it out. But we know that as a minim and it's worth 2 beats. But what happens, I'm just going to rub those out. What happens if we put a dot after the note? Okay, so we spoke about a dot directly in line above or below the note. This one is next to it. It changes the value of the note, okay? So when we put a dot after a note, the terminology we use is that it adds half of the original value to the note. So if it is originally worth 2, we add half of that to the note. So half of 2 is 1, and we add that to the value. So it's worth 2, and we add half of it, so it's now worth 3. Okay, so that's what a dot does next to the note. Let's do a few more of those. Let's do one of these. So, what is that called and how many beats is it worth? That is a semibreve and it's worth 4 beats. Okay, what happens if we put a dot next to it? Well, the terminology is we add half of the original value. So it goes from 4, that's a bit dodgily drawn, I'm going to draw that again. We can do it better. It goes from 4 to 6, okay? 4 plus 2 is 6. Let's do a couple of harder ones over here. Let's do this note. I'm going to swap it around because it doesn't matter which way the stem goes. So what is that called? How many beats is it worth? We know that's a crotchet and it's worth 1 beat. So what happens if we put a dot after that? What's the answer? Who's good at maths? So half of 1 is half, so we add that to the note, so it's actually worth 1.5. Okay, so that is a 1.5 beat note. Let's do one more. Gets even trickier. I'm going to do it up here. Okay, what type of note is that and how many beats is it worth? It is a quaver. Sorry, missed the dot there. It is a quaver and it is worth half a beat. So it gets a little trickier here. So we put a dot after the note. How many beats does it become worth? So I'm not sure how good your maths is, but this is a bit of a mathematical equation. So half of a half is a quarter, and then we need to add a quarter to a half, so we get 3 quarters. Okay, and you can keep going with this, but that's the main point. The most common one of these is this one down here. This is the most common dotted note you will see. You very rarely see this one because most of the time we're in 4/4 and you can't fit a 6-beat note into a bar of 4/4, so you don't see that one too often. This one is very common, followed probably by this one. But the main point there is the dots. The dot above or below the note being staccato, a short note, as opposed to a dot next to a note, which adds half of the original value. So that's musical terms and dots.